I'm going to tell you something that perhaps no one has dared to tell you until today. What everyone calls strength in you, what they've praised you for since childhood, what has become your trademark in life, may not be strength at all. It may be a scar that has learned to smile. There are two types of strength in the world, and almost no one has taught you the difference between them. The first is the strength you choose. It's the strength of someone who had comfort, who received hugs, who had a helping hand extended at the right time, and yet, at some point in life decided to walk alone. This strength has roots. It has a way back home. The second strength is something else. It wasn't chosen, it was learned. Learned in the silence of a house where no one asked how you were. Learned on the night you cried softly so as not to bother anyone. Learned on the day you fell, scraped your knee, and understood as a child that no one would come to get you. This second strength is not a virtue. It's a scar. This is what's left of a child who had to become an adult too soon, because the adult who should have been there simply wasn't. And it's this second kind of strength that we're going to talk about today. The independence that the world applauds, but which, inside, is made of absence. The autonomy that seems like freedom, but is, in reality, armor. You've been called strong your whole life, for not being a burden, for solving everything, for never needing anyone, and nobody ever asked you how much that cost, how much it still costs. Before I continue, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next might touch places you've closed off a long time ago, and you'll want to come back here later, not to make you feel broken, but because understanding why you can never ask for help is the first step to finally being able to. The first sign is the most invisible of all, because it happens before thought. You don't decide to solve it alone, you've simply already solved it. The world sees this as practical genius. People say, "Wow, you're amazing." A problem appears before you, and you already have 3 solutions. You're the one who fixes, the one who organizes, the one who takes charge. But inside, the story is different. Inside, there's a strange hurry, an urgency to close the problem before it even exists for others, as if asking for help were a luxury you can't afford, as if there were a voice somewhere deep down saying, "Quick, solve it," before they realize you needed it. Go back in time. You're 6 years old. You have your math homework open on the kitchen table. You don't understand. You look up, searching for someone. Your mother is tired. Your father is angry. Or he simply isn't. You lower your head, and right there in that moment, without knowing it, you made a pact with life. I'll manage. And you managed. For decades. Psychology has a name for this. It's called compulsive self-sufficiency. It's a mechanism the child's brain creates when it realizes that asking doesn't work. Or worse, that asking brings pain. The limbic system, which is the part of the brain responsible for emotions and survival, learns a simple equation. Asking equals danger. Solving problems alone equals safety. And this equation becomes ingrained. The cost, today, is that you are exhausted. Exhausted in a way that no one notices because you never knew how to show tiredness. Your relationships suffer because the other person can never truly help you. You don't give them a chance. You anticipate their needs. And the other person, over time, distances themselves, thinking you don't need them, when, in fact, you need them so much it hurts. You are not self-sufficient. You are a child who learned, too early, that asking was useless. The second sign appears in small things. Someone gives you a ride. Someone lends you money. Someone brings you coffee without you asking. And instead of light gratitude, what rises in your chest is a tightness. A strange feeling of duty, of being in debt. The world sees this as kindness, as good manners. Wow, you're so grateful, so thoughtful. You return the favor quickly. You send a thank you message 3 times. You stay awake thinking about how to reciprocate. Inside, what exists is discomfort. Receiving, for you, is not relief. It's exposure. It's like standing in the middle of the room, naked. You want the debt to end quickly because while it exists, you feel smaller, vulnerable, at risk. Go back. You're 8 years old. Your aunt gives you a present, and soon after comes the phrase, "See how much I love you. Now you need to behave." Or your father takes you to the park, and for weeks reminds you of this every time you disobey. "After everything I do for you." The child learned that receiving always came with a price, that affection was a loan, that every kindness had interest. Psychology calls this traumatic reciprocity. It's when the act of receiving activates the same region in the brain that responds to threats. Because in their history, receiving was never free. The cost today is that you isolate yourself without realizing it. You refuse invitations. You don't accept help at work. You prefer to pay double rather than owe a favor. And, even more painfully, you can't feel the love of the people who truly love you, because their love reaches you and hits a wall, the wall that says, "If I accept this, I'll pay dearly later." You're not ungrateful. You're a child who never learned that affection exists without a price. The third sign is the best disguised, because it wears the clothes of maturity. You tell others and you tell yourself that you like being alone, that your own company is enough, that you've learned, over time, to appreciate silence. And in part, that's true, but only in part. The world sees this as self-knowledge. People say, "It's good that you're so centered, so well-adjusted. You don't depend on anyone to be happy." You nod, you smile, you remain alone. Inside, what exists is calculation, a silent automatic calculation that you make every time someone approaches. Is it worth it? Can I trust them? What if I open up and that person isn't there when I need them? And then, in fractions of a second, your brain answers for you. Better not. Better alone. Being alone hurts less. Go back. You are 10 years old. You trusted someone, maybe a friend, maybe an adult, maybe your own father, your own mother. You opened a door inside yourself. You showed something true, and that door was trampled. They laughed at you. They forgot about you. They used what you told them against you, and on that day you didn't consciously decide anything, but something inside you decided for you. Never again. Psychology calls this avoidant attachment. It's a pattern that forms when a child realizes that getting close hurts more than staying away. The brain then rearranges the equation. Distance equals safety, intimacy equals risk. And you spend your whole life keeping everyone at a comfortable distance, close enough not to seem strange, far enough away to never be hurt again. The cost today is a loneliness you call peace, but which, on some nights, rises to your throat and you can't explain what it is. You don't love solitude. You just learned too early that it was safer than people. The fourth sign is the one that most confuses those who love you, because it seems like ingratitude. But it isn't. Someone notices you're tired and offers to make dinner. Someone sees you struggling and asks if they can help. Someone offers you money during a difficult time. And instead of relief, what you feel is a sudden, almost uncontrollable irritation, an urge to say, "I'm fine. I don't need it. Leave it." The world sees this as a difficult temperament. You hear phrases like, "You're too proud," "You're stubborn." And you agree, because you also don't understand why you react that way. Inside, what's happening is much older than the present scene. When someone offers help without you asking, the brain triggers an alarm. Because, for the child that lives inside you, offers of care never came for free. They came with pity. They came with humiliation. They came after you had already broken inside, waiting too long, and when it finally arrived, it was too late, and the delay hurt more than the absence. Go back. You are 12 years old. You have a fever. You're alone in your room. No one comes for hours. When someone finally enters, it's in a hurry, impatiently, with that look that says, "Here comes trouble." You've learned that care comes wrapped in irritation, that being helped means being a burden. Psychology calls this reaction defensive hyperreactivity. The limbic system interprets the offer of care as an invasion, because in your history, care and discomfort have always come together. It's not anger at the person. It's old fear, dressed as anger. The cost, today, is that you push away exactly those who most want to get close. Your partner, Your children, your friends. They try and they hit that wall, and they give up, and you're left with the bitter satisfaction of having proven once again that no one stays, when in fact it was you who sent them away, unintentionally, without realizing it. You're not difficult. You're still a child, frightened by care. Stop for a moment. Before continuing, I need to tell you something. Everything you've recognized so far, each of those signs that may have tightened your chest, each one was intelligence. It wasn't a defect. It wasn't a character flaw. It wasn't weakness disguised as strength. It was intelligence. The brain of that child you once were did exactly what it needed to do to keep you alive, to keep you functioning, to bring you here, to this moment, to this video. If you hadn't learned to fend for yourself, perhaps you wouldn't have survived emotionally in that house, in that silence, in those absences. Independence was your first form of self-love, even without you knowing it. It was the child saying, "If no one will take care of me, I will." And it was never their fault. It was never yours. You weren't born wrong. You were born into a situation that demanded of you what no child should have to give. That armor saved you, and that's why it deserves to be thanked, not hated. But it's also why it can finally be taken away, because you no longer need to just survive. You can live. Stay with me. The fifth sign is perhaps the most beautiful on the outside and the most painful on the inside. You are the person everyone looks for. When a family member gets sick, you appear. When a friend goes through a crisis, you answer the phone at 3 in the morning. When a colleague needs help, you take on the task. You give. You give time. You give money. You give your presence. You offer comfort. The world sees this as pure generosity. You are the pillar, the rock, the shoulder. People say, "I don't know what I would do without you." And you feel a warm satisfaction when you hear that, because for a moment you exist in the other person's eyes. Inside, however, there is an asymmetry that no one sees, because while you attend to everyone else, no one attends to you. And not because people don't care, but because you never let it show that you need them. You call to check on others, but you never talk about your day. You ask how the other person is doing, but you change the subject if they ask about you. Go back. You are 7 years old. Your mother is sad, lying on the sofa. You approach, gently stroke her head, and bring her a glass of water. She smiles weakly and says, "You are my love. You take such good care of me." And there, in that moment, you discover something important, that being useful is the surest way to be loved, that giving is what guarantees you a place. Psychology calls this parenting. It's when a child assumes the role of caregiver for their own parents or siblings and learns that their function in the world is to support others, that their value lies in what they offer, never in who they are. The cost today is that you don't know how to receive without feeling embarrassed, that you accumulate weariness that no one shares, that you die of thirst next to people who would give you water if you only asked. You are not overly generous. You are a child who learned that giving was the only way to belong. The sixth sign is perhaps the most dangerous, because it has become your identity. It's no longer a behavior. It's who you believe yourself to be. You present yourself to the world as someone who doesn't need anything. "I can manage. I'll find a way. Don't worry about me." These phrases come out of your mouth with an almost proud naturalness. You repeat them so many times that they've become your signature. The world sees this as admirable autonomy. People say, "He's always been independent. She's never needed anyone." Aye? And somewhere inside you, this beats like a medal, like proof that you won, that you overcame, that your story, even though harsh, made you someone of value. Inside, however, there's a loneliness that can't be put into words, because you've built an entire identity on top of a deficit. You're proud of something that, deep down, was a lack. You've turned a wound into a trophy, and now you don't know how to let go of the trophy without losing who you are. Go back. You're 14 years old. Someone in the family proudly comments at the table, "That one doesn't cause any trouble. He's always been independent." Everyone laughs, agreeing. And you there feel a slight pang but also a smile rising. Because for the first time, your lack of need has become a compliment. And you decided right there that you would continue to be that. That you would be what you don't need. Forever. Psychology calls this compensatory identity. It's when a person builds their sense of self around what they lacked, transforming neediness into virtue. The problem is that this identity requires constant maintenance. You must never break, never ask, never show fragility. Because if you do, you crumble completely, not just in that situation. The cost, today, appears in intimate relationships. Your partner looks at you and says, "I feel you don't need me." And you don't know how to respond, because deep down, you do need them. But you need them so much that you're afraid to discover the extent of that need. You are not independent. You are a child who confused survival with identity. The seventh sign is the one that hurts the most, because it doesn't happen every day. It happens during the most decisive moments of your life. You hold on, hold on, hold on. For years, for decades, you go through things that would sink anyone. Losses, illnesses, betrayals, unseen exhaustion, and you remain standing. Until one day, something breaks. And when it breaks, you break alone. The world sees this as serenity in chaos. People say, "It doesn't even seem like she's going through this, how strong she is." You're the one who receives the bad news and still checks other people's schedules so as not to be a bother. The one who goes to the funeral and even serves coffee to the relatives. The one who comes out of surgery and answers "all right" on the phone. Inside, what exists is a hospital room with the fluorescent light on, and you, lying down, looking at the ceiling, waiting for a visitor who doesn't come. There's the night you cried in the parked car before going up to the house so that no one would see. There's that morning when you woke up with a tight chest and didn't call anyone because you wouldn't know what to say if they answered. Go back. You're 9 years old. You're sick, with a fever. You hear the house working on the other side of the door, life happening without you. Nobody comes in. You cover your face with the sheet and learn that afternoon a lesson that will stay with you for 60 years. When I break alone. Psychology calls this isolation in crisis. It's the final reflex of insecure attachment. The brain, in moments of extreme pain, instead of seeking connection, seeks refuge. Because in your history, shared pain was never relief. It was exposure. It was just another disappointment. The cost today is that the people who love you only find out what you went through later, through a delayed phone call, through someone else's comment, and they are left with that nameless sadness, the sadness of knowing they could have been there, and you didn't let them. You're not strong. You're a child who never knew they could call. Now you might be wondering, but what happened to me? I wasn't beaten. I wasn't abandoned on a doorstep. I had food. I had shelter. I had school. Why am I like this? And this is where the hardest truth to accept lies.
You're not difficult.
Because what shaped you wasn't a
You're
single
still a
event.
child,
It wasn't a
frightened
scene you
by
can point
care.
to. It was thousands of small absences.
Stop for a moment.
It was the time you cried in your room
Before
and no one asked
continuing,
why.
I
It was
need
the
to
time
tell you
asked for a
something.
hug and heard, "You're too old for that."
Everything
It was
you've
the time you
recognized
needed
so
help with
far,
your homework and were told,
each of those
"Figure it
signs
out yourself.
that may have
I'm
tightened
busy."
your chest.
It was the time you got sick and were cared for as an obligation, hastily, without tenderness, without that look that says, "It's good that you exist." It was the time you got a low grade and no one asked if you were okay. They only asked why you didn't get a higher grade. It was the time you were afraid of the dark and were told to grow up. It was the sum. It was the repetition. It was the silence that accumulated in layers, day after day, year after year, until it became the air you breathed. And the child you were, with the pure intelligence that every child possesses, reached the only possible conclusion in the face of so much absence. She learned, without words, without anyone needing to say it, "My suffering doesn't move anyone, so I myself will move." And from that day on, you began to move. And you never stopped, for decades, until today. Look at your life now. Really look. There's a partner by your side who, for years, has felt like they're living with a closed door, who tries to get in but can't, who loves you but feels excluded from your inner life and doesn't even know if it's worth continuing to knock. There are children, perhaps already adults, who have learned by observing you that asking for help is weakness, that feeling is an exaggeration, that showing yourself is dangerous, and now they repeat, in their own lives, the same armor you carried, without knowing they inherited it from you. There's a chronic exhaustion that you've normalized, that tiredness that sleeps with you and wakes with you, that weight on your shoulders that you think is from age, but is from carrying everything alone your whole life. There's a strange loneliness within relationships full of people, family parties where you miss something you never had, tables full of people where you feel the most distant, and there's time passing, 50, 60, 70 years approaching. It's a feeling that creeps up slowly in the early hours of some mornings and that you push back quickly because it hurts too much. The feeling that no one, in your entire life, has truly cared for you. That's the price of the armor, and it's being paid silently every day. I'm not going to ask you to change everything. I'm not going to ask you to become someone you're not. Armor built over 40, 50, 60 years doesn't fall apart with a video, but it can start to loosen. Here are 5 small gestures. Specific, possible. The first. The next time someone asks, "Do you need help?" instead of automatically replying, "No thank you, I can manage," try just once saying, "Yes, that would be good." It could be to carry a bag. It could be to open a door. It could be for anything small. But observe what happens inside you when the word yes leaves your mouth. Feel the discomfort, and also feel, afterwards, the small relief. The second. When someone offers you affection, a hug, a compliment, a kind word, don't deflect with humor, don't respond with a joke, don't change the subject. Receive it in silence for 3 seconds. Just 3. Look at the person. Breathe. Let the affection in. It will seem like an eternity. But it's just your system learning for the first time that affection doesn't need to be returned immediately. The third. Before solving a problem alone, ask yourself a new question. Stop and ask yourself, is there someone I could call? Even if you don't call, ask the question. Because what's at stake isn't the call. It's your brain starting to consider that other people exist as a resource, not just as an audience. The fourth. Allow yourself to cry in front of a trusted person. Once. As an experiment. You don't need to explain. You don't need to apologize afterward. Just let it happen and see that the world doesn't end, that the person won't leave, that perhaps, for the first time in decades, you'll discover that crying with someone is different from crying alone. The fifth. Say aloud to yourself, sometime this week, looking in the mirror or just in the silence of your room, the following phrase: I can need and still be loved. Repeat it. Slowly. I can need and still be loved. This is the phrase the child has never heard, and they are still waiting to hear it. I want to end by speaking to you as if I were speaking to that child. The child you once were, the child who learned, far too early, to fend for herself. I want to tell her that what she did was a miracle, a silent miracle, one that no one applauded, that no one saw, but that happened nonetheless. She survived an absence that would have overwhelmed many adults. With her own small hands, she built a castle of defenses that brought you alive until now, and for that, she deserves to be thanked. But I also want to tell her and you that that time has passed, that the house of today is no longer the house of before, that the people around you now are not the people who failed you back then. You no longer need to survive. You can live, and living is different. Living includes being able to fall without immediately getting up. Living includes saying, I'm not okay without rehearsing beforehand. Living includes being cared for and not apologizing for it. There are people in the world right now, at this very moment, who will receive your need as a gift, not as a burden, not as a demand, not as a nuisance, as a gift. Because for those who truly love, being let in is the greatest honor there is. But you need to allow these people to appear. You need to open, even if just a little, even if with fear, the door you closed at 6, 8, 12 years old. You were never too strong. You were just left alone, too soon. And there's still time to let someone find you. Before you go, I want to ask you a question. And I want you to answer in the comments. Which of these 7 signs hurt the most to recognize? Was it 1, 2, or 3? Just write the number. Because writing that number is, in itself, a small gesture of asking for help. It's admitting, out loud, in a place where other people will read it, that you were seen, that something here found you. And if you know someone who carries this same weight in silence, without knowing they carry it, share this video with that person. Like the video so it reaches more people who need to hear this today. And there on the screen, a next video is appearing, chosen especially for those who have made it this far. Stay with me. You don't have to end the night alone.